In December 2023, TFL Classics posted a video of a 1995 Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra. Overall, the video was quite critical of this car, and I have to admit that struck a nerve, since I have a soft spot for it. The Cutlass Sierra was built on GM's A platform, which it shared with three other models at its launch in 1982, the Chevrolet Celebrity, Pontiac 6000 and Buick Century. It was very plain to see that the four cars were similar. From the side they looked almost identical. In fact, this platform became infamous for that when it appeared on a magazine cover, which was quite embarrassing for GM, and it prompted them to get a bit more creative. I'm not going to argue with that history. However, TFL's video did exaggerate a few things, which I feel the need to correct. The video's title labelled it the least unique car that GM has ever made, and the presenter called it one of the worst cases of badge engineering he's ever seen. He even claimed that the A-body cars literally all looked exactly the same, except with maybe a different badge. Sorry, but no. True, the four platform bodies look almost the same from the side view. However, take a look at the front and the cars look different. It's easy to tell them apart. Well, okay, maybe it's not super easy, but the facelift in 1989 improved things. Anyway, from the back, the station wagon models did look identical, apart from the tail lights, I'll admit, but the sedans had very different designs. Again, it's easy to tell which is which. Also, the wheel styles were unique to each brand. Now lastly, let's take a look inside. Nothing is identical here. Each car has a distinct identity. The interiors are the biggest point of difference between the models. Also, consider that these vehicles were available as a coupe, sedan, and station wagon. The production runs of these models are also different. The A-body cars were all released in 1982, however, the coupe, sedan, and wagon variants of each model ended production in different years. That's quite a complex table, since each model's production wasn't identical. But now it gets much more complex. The Olds and the Buick had the same engine options, but the Pontiac and the Chevy were a bit different in that area, offering their own choices. And Pontiac even developed an all-wheel drive system for the 6000. So, to recap, the four models have some clear design differences. The engine options varied, they were sold in three body styles, and their interiors looked very different from each other. For perspective, we can look at other GM platforms from the same era. Take the H-body for instance. This platform was shared by the Buick LeSabre, Oldsmobile 88, and Pontiac Bonneville. Like the A-body, these models were virtually identical from the side, but quite distinctive from the front and rear, and they had very different interiors. However, the Buick and Oldsmobile were only offered as a sedan or coupe, and the Pontiac was only available as a sedan. Also, they were only offered with one engine, the Buick 3.8 litre V6, although early Buick and Olds versions had the 3 litre too. Now, Buick and Oldsmobile also offered more upmarket cars on the C platform. The front half was identical to the H-body cars, aside from the grille. The rear half was different, but the Buick Electra and Oldsmobile 98 still looked like each other. Now these cars did have some assorted year-to-year changes, but even so, they were arguably even less unique than the A-body cars. But now, just to be fair, despite this criticism, I like the H and C body cars quite a lot, especially the Oldsmobiles. In fact, I once owned a later model 88. That was a really nice car. I'd own another H body or C body in a heartbeat. But anyway, to conclude my defense, the A platform wasn't the only General Motors car template to suffer from less creative badge engineering, and therefore it's quite inaccurate to label the Cutlass Sierra, or any of the A platform models, as GM's least unique car. Now that raises the question, what's actually the least unique car in GM's history? I have a suggestion. The third generation U-platform minivans. There were 4 models available: the Chevrolet Uplander, Pontiac Montana SV6, Saturn Relay, and Buick Terrazzo. As you can see, they look pretty similar. In fact, the only real difference is the front grille piece, which is just one big piece of plastic with bits on it. Even the headlights and indicators are exactly the same, which you can't say about the A-body. And the rear view? Exactly the same. No, really, exactly the same, except for the badges. Yes, the models do have different wheel designs, and the Buick had more chrome, but that's pretty much it. The rest of the body was the same. The engine options were exactly the same. The all-wheel drive option for the 3.5 was exactly the same. Even the production runs were mostly the same. The only major thing that wasn't the same was the choice of long or short wheelbase, and only the Canadians got the short wheelbase Pontiac. But now let's take a look inside. Wow, at least the A-body cars had unique interiors. The U-body vans are completely identical on the inside. The only differences are in the colours and decor, such as the gauge cluster. Now the Buick has lots of wood and chrome, and the Pontiac has plenty of silver, and it's the only one with red lighting on the console. But apart from that, they're literally the same van. This is definitely one of the worst examples of badge engineering I've ever seen. In conclusion, the A-platform cars such as the Cutlass Sierra really don't deserve the criticism that the TFL Classics video levelled at them. The video had a lot of comments defending the cars, which is quite understandable. They only get a bad rap because of that infamous magazine cover. My counter-argument is that the third generation U-platform minivans might well be the least unique cars that General Motors has ever built. Well, that was my 2 cents worth. If you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate that, since this video took a lot of work to produce. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.